learning different ways to have self-care, have a lot of grace and compassion for yourself, and not allow that to be tied to performance, but allowing that that grace within yourself, that self-acceptance, and understanding that our values are our values. Our values is not just an A plus. Our values are more than that. Our values come down to what our relationship with ourself looks like, what our self-esteem looks like, and how we can build that up.
Hi, I'm Kim Tolson and I'm the traveling therapist. It's my passion to teach therapists how to navigate online private practices and multiple income streams so they can travel the world. I'm a digital nomad with a virtual insurance-based private therapy practice and a multi-six-figure coaching business. I'm obsessed with entrepreneurship and developing tools that can help therapists live an adventurous lifestyle. In this podcast, I will discuss my journey as a digital nomad. I'll chat with other traveling therapists and help you navigate the complexities of running an online insurance-based practice. I'm so glad to have you with me on this journey. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Traveling Therapist Podcast. I'm really excited today to have Christine Wong here with me. You guys know I just love sharing all these different stories, and Christine's got a really interesting story. So Christine, I'd love for you to tell everybody how you went from just being like a typical therapist to a traveling therapist.
I love going to just random towns in California, especially the Central Coast. I'm primarily in LA, and I love being in the city, and I love being in the San Gabriel Valley, and loving my Chinese cuisines, but I think ultimately I love being in California and being in, anywhere from the desert to the ocean side, and just being in that culture of like, slowing down and then really fast pace all together.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, California is amazing for that because you can get the best of like three worlds, really.
Mhm.
Desert, mountains, ocean. I could spend like probably years in California just going to all the different places because it's so beautiful. And I actually love that story because a lot of times, people will write me and they'll say, God, I could never become a traveling therapist. And I always try to like emphasize it's different for everybody. Like you don't have to be a full-on digital nomad like me that lives in Airbnbs and just, all over the world. You could totally just travel California or your state that you're in. You could be like just a local aficionado of, towns around where you live, and that's still a traveling therapist. So I just actually love that you're sharing that today.
Here's the thing,
Uh,
I'm living vicariously through you, Kim. I
oh,
love I love the life that you live. I love that you're kind of, incorporating all this variety in your life. I think that's a beautiful thing, and it kind of stretches our mind and stretches our ability to, really understand ourselves in different environments. So I think I live through, watching you through like podcast, and also in all the reels that you get to make, and
oh
I
my gosh.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love hearing that. Do you know how much I hate making those reels? I mean, it's like it's fun, but it's also like, it's really awkward like putting your life on social media. It's
It
a
is.
whole other like thing, but thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. So, could you tell us like a little bit about your practice and how you structure, traveling to different places in California? Do you work when you're traveling to different places? Like how does that work for you in your life?
I think primarily right now I have more of an online private practice. I do hybrid. I see a few
Oh, cool.
clients in person, and for the most part, I think telehealth has been phenomenal in a sense where not a lot of people like to drive in LA. And so if they're in the comfort of
Yeah.
their homes, having a telehealth session, that seems to work just as good. And I enjoy just being, you know, meeting different people, being in different towns, and just being part of the environment and feeling the presence of what it's like to have a clam chowder in Cambria and looking at the
Oh,
ocean, and being, in Indian Wells and watching tennis and having amazing, the whole camaraderie of fanatics of tennis, right? And being in that
oh,
space.
awesome.
And, I think I always think about my private practice. I think about my clients. I think about how I can improve the private practice, make sure that I incorporate new, features to the practice. I think one new thing that I was able to, incorporate is like a walk and talk therapy. which I
Love
was so
that.
nervous about to start. But there's a few clients that do really like it, and I like to kind of, provide that for them, especially if the ones that live closer to me, and
Mhm.
they seem to enjoy that walking and talking and being in that space of what it's like to get two things, right? Like be outdoors, but also be in a confidential space of let's talk about real life things that are they're struggling with right now.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Do you just like meet them in random places or do you start at the office and go from the office and then come back to the office? I love the topic of walk and talk because it really is kind of controversial on Facebook.
Yeah.
People be like, you can't do that, client confidentiality and all that. And I'm with you. I'm like, let's go for a walk. Like it's so much better than sitting in a stuffy office somewhere, in my opinion, you know?
There's local parks that are really secluded, which is nice, and
Oh, that's awesome.
ultimately just getting on the same page, right, with the consent forms and making sure that, hey, if someone randomly says hi to us, right, what are we gonna do in that moment, right? And I always make a,
Yes.
a funny joke, and I said, please, I'm gonna go at your pace, so don't start running a marathon, because it's gonna be hard for me to keep up, you know?
That's so funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, and just for anybody listening, I get this question all the time, like in the insurance billing side of things that I do, like how do you bill insurance for walk and talk? So it just this total side note. If you're leaving from the office and coming back to the office, you can bill location code 11. And if you're doing it just somewhere randomly, you can bill location code 99 on your claim form. Just like total side note.
Love it. We all need it.
Yeah, because I get that question a lot. Like, how do I bill for this? But I love that. I really do. So, I'm curious how you talk to your clients about, I've got especially people with hybrid practices, because like when I first went all telehealth, my clients were not on board with it. And then, I tried to do a little hybrid thing in the beginning, but I was getting a lot of pushback because they knew if they knew they could see me in the office, they would like wait until I was going to be in the office, and eventually I had to like pull the plug and say, I'm not going to have an office anymore. But I'm just curious, like, how does that work? Do you have clients that will only do in office? Are they like on board with the fact that you might be in Cambria or somewhere and then they'll just, convert over to the telehealth instead? I just wonder how you manage that or what you have found with clients, because I get that question a lot too. It's like my clients don't want to be on video with me, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on that or how you've navigated that.
I think I've gotten really lucky. I think majority of my clients like telehealth, and the ones that do like the hybrid, they are okay with, seeing me once a month or twice a month. And because they don't
Nice.
themselves don't want to drive and they might have this conflicted overpacked schedule of raising children and having to do the pickups and drop-offs and
Yes.
it seems to work out. I don't know what the future will hold. I
Mhm.
might completely transition, but it's one of those things where I like to kind of keep things open so that they can make the choice themselves and see what fits best for them.
Yeah. So do you ever worry like, okay, like I really want to go for 3 weeks down to Palm Springs and, but I know I see this client in office every 2 weeks. Like, do you ever worry about that? Or are you just like, hey, this is me, this is how I do it, and, either
Yeah.
see me or don't see me, like that kind of thing?
I think the difference of it all is that when I do take these trips, I tend to like the 3-day trips a lot. A,
Oh,
because I really
nice.
miss home, and B, I just
Yeah.
wanna be home right away, right? And I it typically works out where it's a 3-day trip, whether it's like a Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just something where the week is still available for
Mhm.
sessions, and I try to make it
Nice.
so that it's available for my clients, and I think that's important for them, especially different levels and different needs, and I think over time that might change. I might
Mhm.
take a more nomadic approach and be like, "Hey, I'm in Iceland right now, I don't know," right?
Yeah. And I'm gonna be there for like a month, so
Yeah,
make it work.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think, when I cross that bridge, I'm happy to, be I think being upfront about it is important. I wanna just always, be on the same page with my clients and let them know that it's maybe a personal self-care month for myself or whatever that needs
Mhm.
to be in seeing engaging with them and seeing how that would be accepted for them in their stage right now, and if it means like, having another therapist on deck to see if that could be like the buffer in between.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, just like have somebody else see them if they need
Yeah.
need somebody. That's awesome. Yeah. Mhm. So when you take the 3-day weekends, do you ever see clients, or is it like, do you just like block Friday, Saturday, Sunday off always? Like, how do you make that work?
I
You're
block
like, no, I don't see clients.
I block it so that I can really enjoy myself.
Like me, it's like, well, let me just fit in 2 people in the morning. Yeah.
'Cause by the time I get there on the first day, it's really you're adjusting, right? And so that's
Yeah.
second day is really when you get to live it up a little bit.
Yes. Yeah. No, I love that. Yeah. I mean, I feel like if I was traveling just like 3 days, I would totally not see clients for that time. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah. Yeah. So do you ever go out of the state, or is it more just staying kind of local so you can just do these quick weekends and then come right back? Is that pretty much how you manage it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's been this past year a lot, especially just having the private practice. In the past, of course, going to different countries and seeing the sites. As of
Oh,
right
yeah.
now, I've just kind of done this like Central Coast, and it's really made me feel like more appreciative of the state that I live in, and just seeing the new things that I've probably never even, thought to go, and experience
Yeah.
that in its full form.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that will continue to be the case for a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. So
Yeah.
when you say you kind of miss home a lot, is it like kids and a partner and all that, or is it, just you just like your home a lot and you want to get back to it?
I think I have this deep appreciation for this town that I live in, and just being part of the culture. And I always joke with my friends, like, if I drive a little bit too far, I'm always dreaming and thinking about dumplings, and dumplings are like, a sign of Chinese culture and all these things. And I'm just like, where's the local boba shop, and just to
I
have
love
that,
that.
you know, yeah.
I love that. So really your hometown is your heart anyway. So it's good for you to come back to it. Me, my hometown, I'm like, whatever.
Yeah. It just
I don't really have any.
grounded.
Go ahead.
Mhm.
What'd you say? Sorry.
It just helps me to be grounded, to be in this
Mhm.
neighborhood that I'm in, and to feel like I can call a friend and go to the local park that I like to walk in, and just be in this like state of like I'm grounded versus I'm worried about navigating different areas and different,
Yeah.
directions, and yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. One of the other episodes we had on here was about like vicarious trauma and how, just even traveling constantly like I do really disrupts the nervous system and, can definitely make me feel really discombobulated sometimes, and recently I even said to my boyfriend, I was like, I just need to stop for a little bit. I need to like settle down and just like get like you said, grounded again, just like kind of like reestablish like some consistency for a bit because I can tell my nervous system is a little out of whack, just like trying to get places, dealing with a new Airbnb each time, and each one has a different issue that's wrong with it. Just learning a new place, all of that is in a new city. So I totally get that. It makes perfect sense to me. Yeah. OWL is a comprehensive HIPAA compliant solution that helps you manage your practice, meet with your clients virtually through video therapy, manage client appointments and client records seamlessly, streamline your claims process, and communicate with clients securely through OWL's client portal. Visit owlpractice.com/Kim Tolson for an offer of 50% off your first 6 months.
I mean, I think even like I know that you follow the Thriving Therapist group, and they're doing the Costa Rica retreats, and I'm fascinated by that because I'm like I would love to be part of something like that and really learn from amazing, therapists all
Mhm.
over the country, and just see how
Mhm.
they do their practice and how they incorporate travel and trainings and different things like that. So I love that the
Yeah.
groups that you're in. I always feel that, anything that Kim's involved in, it's always pushing the box, pushing the
Oh,
limit.
thank you.
I This is incredible.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, if anybody listening doesn't know what we're talking about, Megan Gunnell, one of my dearest best friends, she does conferences and retreats. She's got one coming up in Costa Rica this coming February, and it's going to be, I think they've got like 10 speakers, CEs for each one. It's at El Mangrove Resort. I always say that wrong. right on the ocean there. It is gorgeous, but you learn so much. And then, like you're saying, you get to really like interact and make tons of friends. Like a lot of us traveled to each of these events together because, we made bonds in other places together like that. It's so fun. I love it. And, being flexible as a traveling therapist, I could just go stay there for a couple of weeks. It's amazing. Yeah. Well, I want to just talk a little bit too about something else that you're doing, which I think is really cool. So you're doing these trips, you're managing a hybrid practice, but you're also working on your dissertation, right?
In the last phases of my dissertation.
Oh my gosh. Can we talk about that? Like the time at like I don't know anything about like PhDs and dissertations, but when I hear people say it, I'm like, oh my gosh. I just don't even know. It feels like it must be so involved and just amazing for you to be going through this process. I'd love to talk about it, especially your topic, which I think is amazing.
Yeah, it's so I meet with my dissertation chair probably every other week, and we're
Okay.
final stages. And the topic is essentially self-care, especially for the Chinese American communities. So what I'll
Wow.
do in this research is kind of get an understanding of what it's like to be a Chinese immigrant, what it's like to kind of deal with filial piety of kind of always respecting your elders, right? And kind of
Yeah.
understanding how the Chinese immigrational journey coming into the US, in the late 1800s to build a railroad and the
Yeah.
transcontinental railroad, and understanding what that sacrifice looked like. And to see that theme in today where there's a lot of corporate burnout, right? And there's a lot of lack
Yes.
of care and not understanding emotions, and maybe omitting emotions because we weren't taught emotions when we were younger
Yes.
from a
Yes.
American born Chinese perspective, and how to kind of bridge that gap of learning different ways to have self care, have a lot of grace and compassion for yourself, and not allow that to be tied to performance, but it'll be allowing that that grace within yourself, that self acceptance, and understanding that our values are our values. Our values is not just an A plus. Our values are more than that. Our values come down to what our relationship with ourself looks like, what our self esteem looks like, and how we can build that up simultaneously.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so important. Oh my gosh. Do you have some preliminary findings, or are you just like in the initial research stage and all of that? I'd love to hear what you find from all of this.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
an ongoing process. I'm still looking through a lot of the research and trying to bridge a lot of gaps, and also recognize, just these common themes. I think so much of the culture has, through the research has been about this notion of respecting our elders, and at times when we do that, we find that in our the immigrational journey, there's been a lot of things that have kind of went underneath the rug and just brushed underneath the rug, and it's hard to know exactly what happened and where our ancestors came from, because so much of that record is gone, and so little was spoken of it. And it's
Yeah.
hard just to look for some research, especially with the Chinese American community. And I think that contributes to the theme of, when things are hard and things are tragic and even shameful, it's hard to talk about them. And I think
Hmm.
that goes hand in hand with this focus of grief and trauma, and how, because it's just so traumatic, and then because there's just so much grief, it's best we don't talk about it, right? And
Right.
there's been so many findings of, people looking in their history and saying, I didn't know I had a brother, or I didn't know I had, so and so was actually my uncle, and
Yeah. Wow.
a journey of how so much needed to be protected, and just so that they can try their best for the American dream. And
Mm.
also just like the uncovering of so many people that did die building the railroads, that so
Mm.
many people died from that project, and so
Yeah.
little was uncovered, in a sense where, who was my father in this, or where was my grandfather, and whatever happened to them when they finally came to the US and came to California, and how did they go from San Francisco to Los Angeles, and just all that journeying, and I think that sometimes gets lost.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember learning about it myself when I was a kid, and just the tragedy surrounding all of it. It just, blew my mind then and still continues to blow my mind. And I'm so glad you're doing research around it. I'm sure it's going to be super meaningful and helpful.
I take a lot of breaks in the research because I think it definitely tugs at my heartstrings every so
Oh, I
often.
bet. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I'm with it. I try to not get too performance about it, and the pages will come along as they come along.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love that. Just doing it on your own time, taking care of yourself along the way. Obviously, you're researching on self-care, so doing it slow and at your own pace, and allowing yourself the grace to process what you're even researching is amazing to me. Yeah.
Thank you.
When you meet with your dissertation chair, or do you do that remotely? So is that something like a traveling therapist could probably be doing remotely if they wanted to?
Yeah. So she's based in Colorado, and so we're always talking. My
Nice.
reader and editor is also in Denver, Colorado, and so it's just this like Zoom world, right, where we get to
Yeah.
have these breakout sessions and talk about things and go deep on how do we fill the gaps to the research, and how do we kind of look for that specific keyword so that we can uncover more studies and articles and things like that.
Yeah. So everybody listening, you could still pursue something like this, even if you're a traveling therapist. So do you have to go eventually? I mean, I don't know anything about the process, but I have heard that eventually you have to go like present it to a board of people. So I would imagine you have to like fly in for that and do that in front of everybody. I'm guessing. Yeah.
Something
Okay.
along the lines like a capstone, and also the oral defense, and just making sure that they just really need to know and grill you to see if you really read all those research articles so that you know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Gosh, that is amazing. I admire that so much. Yeah. On top of everything you're already doing, like running a practice and trying to travel and do all of that too. It's really cool. Yeah.
I think it's sometimes it can feel very, very dry, the whole process, but I think as long as we stick to the value system internally,
Hmm.
it's going to help us with how do we go forward and keep going. Because there's been many times when I paused and I said, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if this was worth my time, because it's been like a 4 or 5 year journey. But I think the reality of it is, I think about the contribution, because I know that this could benefit a lot of people, just to have that awareness of what it looks like and identify these themes that we don't talk about it so much in our community, and we need to.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I love that. Thanks so much for sharing about it. And I'm sure if there's anybody listening that wants to connect or learn more about it, would it be okay if they reached out to you and
Absolutely.
connected?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So how do people find you if they want to connect with you?
You can find me through my Instagram. It's my full name, Christine K. Wong. And you can certainly reach out and DM, and we can start the conversation there.
Love that. Thank you. Yeah, that's great. So is there anything else we didn't talk about that you think would be helpful to anybody listening? I personally would love to know what is your favorite place in California to visit because I'll probably be back there eventually. So I just love to hear like tips and places that people love.
Well, my two favorite places at this time is probably Cambria, which is
Okay.
like the coastal town next to Napa, and it's
Nice.
super calm and super relaxing, very just you see the beautiful ocean, and there's amazing wine and seafood, and just being in that space of like meeting other people that are also just in the relaxation mode.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Oh, I've been to Napa just briefly, but I've always thought I would love to come back to that area and spend some time there. Hmm.
There's an incredible restaurant out there. It's called Lynn's, and they make their fresh pies and fresh jams, and they're famous for their, I think it's called Oli Berry jam, which is it's
Oh,
amazing. It's like the first time I ever had it, it was like most delicious thing ever.
what's an Oli berry? I don't know.
Kind of like a blackberry and a blueberry mix, but it's
Really?
berry.
I love that. Oh my gosh, yum. Yeah, I love California is so beautiful. And I went to Carmel by the Sea one time and I just love that area so much. I've never gotten to go back. We were going to go, but then it was like we were trying to book an Airbnb at the last minute. It was like the prices were astronomical, so
I believe
we didn't
that.
go. But I love that little town. I was there for I think 24 hours one time, and I was always like, I want to come back here and spend time in this area. Just that like coastal area over there is so pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a different vibe compared to, I feel like, Southern California and how busy it can be. Whereas
Mhm.
that Central Coast is just, it's on another frequency. It's so nice.
Oh, I love that. You're making me want to go like right now.
Yeah, I'll see
Gosh.
you there in March.
Okay, I'm gonna have to remember that. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Who knows where we'll even be in March? It's like you just don't even know where my life is gonna take me. We're in Williamsburg, Virginia right now. My dad and stepmother had like a health thing, and we're here like trying to figure out what to do with them, like assisted living or what. So we're just all like taking shifts, sleeping here, and just making sure they're okay. So that's been interesting. But I'm also grateful to be able to just be here, be able to like arrange my schedule to be here and help them out with this. So
Sure.
yeah, you just never know where life's going to take you.
Yeah, and that's why we gotta enjoy every moment of it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, Christine, thank you so much for being a guest. I hope you'll come back when the dissertation's done and tell us all your
Well,
findings
I
because
certainly will.
Chinese Americans need this. They need this research. So I think it's super important and I'm glad you're doing it. Yeah.
Thank you, Kim. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yeah. Well, thanks so much. And you guys reach out to Christine if you have questions about her research or tips for California, I guess, where she's staying. Follow her on Instagram. If I'm not already, I think I already am, but I've got to make sure I am after I get off of here. But yeah. Yeah.
All each other.
Yes. Thank you
Good,
so
man.
much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening to the Traveling Therapist podcast. For show notes, links, and downloads, head over to thetravelingtherapist.com, where you'll be able to learn more about my journey, the courses I've created for you, and other exciting resources to make your dreams become a reality. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share with your traveling therapist friends, subscribe to the podcast, and if you love this episode, please leave a review.